Welcome back to another episode of KKC Consulting. With me today, I have Haider. He's a technician sales expert all the way from Microsoft. Haider, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Let's just get started. Do you mind talking to me about your journey?
Sure, let me walk you through. So, right now, I'm a technical specialist at Microsoft for Copilot, which is our generative AI solution, kind of like ChatGPT. Technical specialist, it's a fancy word, but other companies call it a sales engineer or a solutions engineer. I cover a lot of pre-sales work, and I focus mainly on working with banks to help them adopt and basically sell them the Microsoft Copilot. Leading up to that, I'm currently in my master's at Georgia Tech right now. It's a school in the States for computer science.
Mm-hmm.
Leading up to how I got to Microsoft, I did my undergrad at York University in the Schulich School of Business. I did a lot of studying. Throughout my journey, I first started off in software engineering. I've always been a really big tech kid. I actually wanted to study computer science in undergrad, but I did business because math isn't my strong suit. Let's keep that between us. And then after that, I did internship in software engineering. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't like sitting behind a desk and coding all day. Thought, okay, I'll try something else. So I did what all business students do. I went into finance. I spent 6 months working at a private equity fund doing tech investments.
Mm-hmm.
Love that experience. Really client facing, a lot of presenting. But I didn't like the work life balance. I was doing like 80-hour weeks in
Right,
Excel
right.
until 3 a.m. Thought, okay, how could I now mix my love for being technical and talking to people and presenting? Sales was the option that stood out to me most. And at that time, one of my mentors, they were at IBM and they're working in sales. So, okay, IBM at that time, they had a sales internship program come up. It was really popular. I applied, went through the interview process, I got it. So I interned at IBM for 4 months as a technical sales specialist, sales engineer. A lot of the role for that is you're doing software demonstrations, you're articulating business value of technical solutions, and vice versa, taking technical challenges and talking about how they can apply business problems. So I worked at IBM for 4 months, liked what I did, they brought me back part time. So I worked at IBM for a year while I was still in school as well.
Wow.
The day after I finished at IBM, started my internship at Microsoft, same role as a technical specialist, sales engineer for Microsoft's automation tools.
Mm-hmm.
And I came back into Microsoft's new grad program where I've been in Microsoft now for a little bit under a year.
That's awesome. It's a lot to pack into it.
Yeah,
But I mean, let's start at the beginning. You mentioned, and we obviously had a chat before this as well, how you first came into business and you wanted to go down the finance route. The money's great, but you mentioned the work-life balance. Can you talk to me about your reflections on that now?
finance is an amazing career path to go down.
Mm-hmm.
It's always really good to understand how business runs, both from the perspective of actually running a business, but the underlying of how businesses are valued and the perspective of how a CFO would analyze and look at a business.
Mm-hmm.
That's really helped me a lot in my sales career. The only reason why I didn't go 100% down that path is because the common trend I noticed people that pursued finance, and particularly the field I was interested in, like investment banking, private equity, venture capital, is people who really have a passion for it and a passion for the numbers. I liked finance, thought it was cool, but I didn't like it enough to the point where I could stay up till 3 a.m. doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Difference I noticed when I was staying up till 3 a.m. grinding out a model, working in finance, I did it, but I didn't enjoy it. But when I did the same thing while working in tech, example, when I was coding up until 3 a.m., I didn't even realize it's 3 a.m. because I'm actually genuinely enjoying it. I
Mm-hmm.
just look up at my screen, see my watch, and I see it's 3 a.m. But I've enjoyed that process because I got into essentially a flow state. That's the reason why finance is an amazing career path to go down. I just didn't think it was the right path for me. I didn't feel fulfilled.
And that's fair. I appreciate you for sharing that because even for me, I really love, trying to build brands, and we had a chat about this earlier as well. Had a lot of side hustles before, and I remember this one specific time. It was 11 p.m. I got off call with like a mentor who was trying to guide me through. From 11 p.m. till 5 a.m. I didn't even realize. I was like in that flow state, just working, and I felt like as soon as I looked at the time, I was like, "Oh, yo, it's wow," And I love doing something I'm really passionate about. Even for the podcast, like sometimes hours would go by. I'll be editing or researching, talking to people. I really enjoy this process. Let's take a turn though, right? And you mentioned that you love sales. Can you talk to me about how you got into sales and how you're able to combine that with tech?
Of course, I got into sales a few ways. And the first way is when I was in first year in university, I was building a startup.
Mhm.
right? I spent months coding it and building this up. And the biggest challenge I faced with that startup, Amari, was finding my first sale. I had no clue how to build pipeline. I had no clue how to cold call or cold email, or even get my first paying customer. So because of that, I researched a lot of sales, and I thought it was really interesting. At university, one way I got to learn about lots of different career paths was doing like coffee chats, right? Reaching out
Mhm.
to people on LinkedIn, talking to them, learning more about their journey and how they got to where they are. I really enjoyed that. And I understand the fundamental of sales is doing that, right? You're cool reaching out to people and talking and building relationships.
Right.
The few reasons I want to learn how to get sales for my startup. I really enjoy that networking aspect of university recruitment. And overall, I like the competitive aspect of sales.
Mhm.
Sales is one of those things where there is a competitive aspect to it. You can be number one. And the more work you put into it, the more output you get. There's not many careers where, especially early on, you're able to put in more work into that directly correlate in results, whether it's your learning, your commission, or so on. There's lots of different options that you have available there. Also, a really big key thing about sales early on is ownership.
Right.
What I mean by ownership is even early on, you're able to own and learn really fast. Looking at lots of different careers that might have what sales gives me, for example, presentation skills and learning and tech, consulting was a common path, right?
Mhm.
The issue with consulting is you're not actually owning anything, at least for the first 5 to 10 years of your career. A lot of your work is you're building slide decks, you're working in models, but you're doing work that other people are telling you. A big belief I have early on is for my career, I wanted to maximize learning. And in
Mhm.
sales, even as an intern, you can own. What I mean by that is, as an intern, I could be sitting in front of clients presenting trying to close deals. But in consulting, I'll never have the opportunity to even try to close a deal until I was at least a few years in the industry or even more. There's a few reasons, Amar. Is the ability to have ownership and close, the competitive aspect, the want to learn more about entrepreneurship at my startup, it all tied together.
Fair. That was a great answer. I appreciate you for sharing that. Let's dive a little bit deeper into that. Talk to me about how important you think sales is as a skill, because one thing that I've personally realized, again, I'm young, don't know as much as I can. Sales is very, very important. Can you share your reflections on that?
Amar, everything in life is sales, man. Everything in life is sales. Whether you're going for a job interview, whether you're going on a first date, whether you're talking to your parents trying to negotiate what you have for dinner, or maybe your allowance or your birthday present, everything is sales, right? Sales is a really transferable skill no matter what career you want to go into.
I agree.
So I recommend it. It's a very underrated career, especially for university students. Most students, you don't know what you want to do. Uh, People look at accounting or finance like I did. But sales type of thing where no matter what career you do, it can translate into it. Sales can translate to a lot of places in your life. For me, it was generally building relationships. Right? I wasn't always a social guy.
Hmm.
Growing up, I was very introverted. I still am very introverted. But learning the sales skills of talking to people and building relationships, it helped me a lot in my life. It helped me in building stronger friendships and finding new friendships and building really valuable and strong relationships. So sales translates everywhere, man.
I agree. And even for me, you touched on this a few times. We'll go into it further. Networking and sales, there's many transferable skills between that. For me personally, I could relate to you in the sense that I was very introverted. I started this podcast. One of the reasons for it was because I was really introverted. I just wanted to come out my comfort zone, talk to a bunch of people, was able to meet you as well, which is great. And I personally feel that networking and sales, so much in common. But can you talk to me about that?
Yeah. I think that networking, it's how do you build a relationship with someone in a 30-minute conversation or over a coffee? Right. Sales is a lot about that too. Bad salespeople will just pitch. Good salespeople build relationships and sell. People buy from people that they like.
Like, yeah.
So when you're networking, a lot of it is you want to build a relationship and you're learning. Sales is about that too, right? People that are really good at networking are often really good at sales because the skills really overlap, man. It's the ability to talk and set a good impression, the ability to lead to an end result, right? Let's be honest, when you're networking, you usually want something at the end of it. Either you want to build a relationship, maybe you want a referral, you want a job, you want an introduction. The same thing with sales, man. Networking is, in essence, sales. Instead of your customer being an enterprise, it's the person you're talking to.
Hmm. I'm going to combine the next two questions into one.
Go for it.
I was going to ask about networking and sales, but let's just combine it. Talk to me about how someone can get good at that skill. just being able to talk to people and build rapport.
A common trend you'll see is getting better at any skill. It's just doing it.
Hmm.
Right? The way you get better at networking, you have as many networking chats as you can. You did really good at this is early on, don't be afraid to start reaching out to people. The only person that can limit yourself when you want to get better at networking is you. Right? For example, in first and second year of university, when other kids didn't even start thinking about networking yet, I probably had 100 plus coffee chats at that time. Right? The more you network, the more you'll learn. My first 10 networking chats, Amar, they were horrible. They were horrible. I mean, I would come in these chats, go out for coffee. I would embarrass myself. I would stutter. It was really bad. And people probably blocked me afterward. But after my 20th networking chat, maybe my 50th, my 100th, I could walk into that conversation with a confidence in knowing I can guide the conversation, I can build a relationship, I can learn something, and if I felt it was right and it had a good connection, I could lead it into an outcome, like getting a referral or getting an introduction to someone else to talk to, or possibly getting a job out of it.
Hmm.
So just the more you practice it, the better you get.
I agree, and I appreciate you for throwing that compliment towards me. I feel that especially with networking, it just, as you said, doing it. Again, at the beginning when I was doing all this, I like at the time I had no idea what a coffee chat was. I used to just message people, "Hey, can I ask you questions?" over LinkedIn. Slowly, I started learning about coffee chats. I did horrible at those, but then I started improving, implementing new ideas, strategies. Got to a point where I was like, "Oh, you know what? You throw me in a room with anyone, I could build rapport with them, right?" And at the end of the day, we're all human. We all have certain tendencies. We all like certain things. You're not going to find someone who hates puppies, right? And being able to bring that idea and have that confidence when talking to people, it's very, very important. On top of that, let's take in a different approach. How can you have a great impression when you're talking to someone?
A lot of it's the basics of setting a good impression. It's one, the way you talk, right? One common mistake I see students make when they're talking with me is they're speaking too fast. Something I'm very guilty about. It's speaking too fast and it's speaking with low confidence. It's
Hmm.
speaking with a weak voice. Something you can practice in your free time if you want to get better at talking to people. This applies to networking, presenting. Speak out loud. Record yourself speaking and listen to your voice. Listen to how well you project. Can you actually understand what you're saying?
Hmm.
Or are you mumbling? One thing that helped me a lot was recording TikToks, right? I used to be super into making content,
Hmm.
just recording content, talking about it, a subject I'm passionate about. For me, it was gaming and computers. And I record myself. I can then see exactly, okay, can I understand what I'm saying? When I post the video, I get comments saying, hey man, I can't understand you. You're too fast. You're too slow. It's your own feedback mechanism.
Hmm.
Make a feedback mechanism for yourself. Other parts are obvious. The same way you would for a job interview. Come dressed nicely. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. Have a good outfit. Depending on who you're talking to, of course, dress more nice. If you're meeting someone in their office building, come business casual. Come in a suit and tie. If you're meeting someone over coffee, maybe don't come in a suit and tie, but still come dressed nicely. Make sure you're groomed properly and you're taking care of yourself. That's a good impression. Of course, be respectful always. The person you're talking to, you're taking time out of their day,
Right.
especially if you're meeting them in person. They're driving, they're taking the time to come, the time they could be spending working with their family. They should be respectful of their time and always be thankful for the opportunity to talk to them, and you should be fine. A lot of the small skills of getting better at networking and setting a good impression, you learn the more working chats you do.
Hmm. On that topic, I remember there's this one analogy that someone told me a long time ago. If you're speaking to a CEO or someone in high position, not even high position, just taking time out of someone's day, think of it like this. They usually get paid like what? 50, 60, 70, sometimes $100 per hour. If you take 30 minutes of that time, that's like you're paying $50, $60, $70. Always have that mindset when you're walking into these interviews. And again, networking can, there's a direct relationship between building a brand, which is something else we talked about behind the scenes. Can you talk to me about how building a brand is important, whether you're in university, undergrad, or even outside when you're in the working world?
100%. Building a brand is something I'm always working on, something I'm still getting better at. It's really important for a few reasons. One, you want to be known as a person who's good at something in an area that you're passionate about. For example, for me,
Yeah.
coming to university, I love tech. And I knew as a business student, pursuing a career in tech was an uphill battle. So I had to build a brand for myself as the tech guy. out of
Right.
business school. The way I did that was doing things like building side projects and letting it known and not being afraid to go against the norms, right?
Yes.
In a business program, I was probably one of the few people pursuing a job in tech, but I wasn't afraid to voice it, and I wasn't afraid to still go down that path. Another way I built a brand is by being shameless, right? Post things. You're doing a good job of that now. For me, the way I built my brand as being a tech guy was through LinkedIn. I would make a bunch of programming side projects and I would post it on my LinkedIn. I would post exactly how I made it and the end outcome. That did the most for me, right? Posting maybe like a 1 minute video of a few tech products I made, that alone helped me get my internship at IBM. It helped me get multiple job offers from startups, introduced me to lots of networking opportunities that helped me much later on in my career as well. A few of the side projects that I posted on LinkedIn helped me get connections that I still have today because they're working at Microsoft or they're working in the
Right.
industry, right? So don't be afraid to post things. And the really good way to build your brand is find what you're passionate about, post things on the platforms where you want to build a brand on. You don't need to be popular. Like you don't need to post on Instagram and expect to get 1 million views, right? Even a few hundred views, 1,000 views. For us, it might seem small, but 200 views, imagine 200 people in a
Yes.
room, sitting in a room, watching you speak, right?
Hmm.
That's a lot. So don't be afraid to post and don't be afraid to voice what your goals are and the direction you want to go in. Of course, you don't need to be flamboyant about it and tell people and show off, but don't be afraid to voice what your path is, what you're passionate about. And when you do that, you'll slowly build a brand over time, man.
I agree, and I appreciate you for sharing this as well because one thing that I used to struggle with, especially with this podcast, was really committing to it and making it more public. A lot of so many mentors and people just told me like you're doing too much. You're doing too many coffee chats. Just calm down, right? And sometimes they would be right. I do agree, but a lot of the times I feel that maybe I was just going against the norm, right? It just doesn't make too much sense. It's not really like you don't find many first year students doing a lot of coffee chats, but it's something I genuinely enjoyed. I love talking to people, learning from them. And I feel that at the end of the day, it's like a cheat code, right? You have a staircase, first year internship, you learn whatever, second, third, fourth. But if you talk to someone who's already completed the staircase, you could just learn all their findings and skip through like one or two steps. Similar to, it's a numbers game at the end of the day, same with sales. If I talk to you and I talk to your buddies, I talk to someone else and their buddies, multiply that by like 10, 15, 100, I'm just going to learn so much simply just by talking to you and learning from your own experiences. One thing that I really did learn from you is time management skills. You're doing a full-time job and you're still learning at Georgia, like you mentioned earlier on. Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, time management is hard, and honestly, I'm not always the best at it. A lot of what time management is just being true to yourself, right? No one benefits when you lie to yourself. Right? There's no reason to lie to yourself. A lot is being honest and what your goals are and what you need to do to get there. Right? Procrastinating, yeah, of course. There's times where I don't want to study. It's a night I want to hang out with my friends. If I want to go out for dinner, maybe go out for shisha, right? But you can't always do that. A lot is understanding what your goals are and the direction that you have to work to get there. Just being honest with yourself about time management. That's what it is. A lot of it is also tracking. A lot of people say, hey, I don't have time. Me too. I used to think I don't have time to do everything. But start tracking your day. Track every minute, every 15 minutes, what you're doing in your day. Put it in Excel. Because at the end of the day, how much time are you spending on TikTok, right? My friends say, yeah, I don't have time for the gym. I don't have time to study. Okay. Open up your phone. Show me your screen time, right? Say, I don't have time, but oh, you're spending 2, 3 hours on TikTok every day. You're spending 5 hours on Reddit. You're spending 6 hours on Instagram, well, X hours on YouTube. Track your time, understand where it's being spent, and then change your allocation to match what you're looking to get. Same thing you do if you're budgeting for finances, right? You
Hmm.
track what you're spending and make sure you're spending less than what you're making. Same with time too. Track where you're spending your time and adjust as you need.
It's a great analogy. Being able to compare that to financial and the whole budgeting thing. On another topic, one word that I really fell in love with recently it's an Arabic word, but it's called ihsan. And the understanding behind ihsan is you should always deliver excellence no matter what you do, no matter how small it is. Whether you're a janitor or, your big time CEO, you should always deliver the most that you can possibly do towards a certain job, work, experience, whatever it might be. Just put your best foot forward and just don't lie to yourself. Build excellence with every step that you take and have pride in that excellence. Taking another twist of turns, let's talk about your experiences, right? IBM and Microsoft, to name a few. Can you talk to me about some tangible advice that you'd give yourself if you could go back a few years ago on how to break into these roles?
Good question. A lot of what breaking into these roles is networking. Networking not in the sense of finding someone to give you a referral.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I found with big tech companies, really most tech companies now, is a referral won't get you the job. Sometimes it won't even get you the interview. Because at the point where any big tech company, they're getting thousands of referrals.
Right.
They're not getting an interview for every candidate. A lot of the way is getting your face in front of where recruiters are and where the hiring panel is. For me, I found that for university recruitment is in-person and online recruitment events. With IBM hosted a virtual internship information panel session. Right? When you think about it, IBM, they're hosting this internship information panel. They're taking time out of the day for 20 people. Right? What happened was it was an internship panel. They spent the first 1 hour talking about internships, then had breakout sessions with 20 employees at IBM. You had breakout rooms where you can go in, talk to employees for a few minutes, right? When you think about it from a logical perspective, right? Now they're taking time out of 20 people a day. As you mentioned before about correlate time with the hours. So these people were very senior, probably have thousands of dollars being spent in time
Right.
on this event. What outcome is IBM getting from this? So I thought that, hey, if they're spending this much time on this event, they're probably looking for an outcome from it. From a logical perspective, I thought, hey, it's a good chance they're probably going to take students from this event and flag them for interviews. What would I do if I was a recruiter? If I had tens of thousands of students applying for this one role, where would I find the best talent? Probably the students that are coming out to events to learn more about the internships, they'd be really good candidates.
Mm-hmm.
So oftentimes what I found with these university recruitment events, IBM had them, Microsoft had them, most companies have them. Go to them. When you talk to people there, they usually have the power to flag you for an interview or at least put a note on your profile that you should have someone look at your resume. The biggest advice, go to the in-person sessions. The other part is networking, especially with people either from your school or people who have recently graduated from your school or your same level, will then give you advice. For
Mm-hmm.
me, going from Microsoft and IBM too, I networked with students from SHU, like the school I went to, who had previously interned in those same roles. They would tell me things about the company culture, things about what kind of questions to expect, especially who to talk to. The biggest advice I have for interviews, hands down, speak as if you already work at that company, right? If you just answer the interview questions, that's not enough. Anyone can memorize answers to 100 behavioral questions,
Right.
but being able to speak as if you already work at that company, where you can make your interviewer think, yeah, I would like to work with this person, that's really important. You don't need to be a know it all. Even if you get the answers to questions wrong, that's okay. Speak as if you already work at the company and be someone likable, especially as an intern. Look, let's be honest. As an intern, you're not making game changing impact, right? You're not driving millions of dollars in revenue. You're there mainly to learn. Show yourself as someone who's coachable, someone the team would enjoy to work with, not someone who's a know it all, and network a bit. And that's the best way to get internships at good companies.
Fair. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Because I honestly never thought of it like that. When you're interviewing, act as if you're already working for that company, but it makes so much more sense, right? The airport test, very, very popular. If you were to be in an airport stuck with that same person, would they want to strike a conversation with you, or would they kind of get away from my face, right? And those skills directly correlate towards sales as a whole. Let's talk about that. Can you talk to me about how to become better as a sales expert?
Sure, I'm happy to share. But I want to make it clear, I'm also at the point where I'm still learning about sales, right?
Of
I've been in
course.
sales for about 2 years. So everything I'm learning really fast. So based on what I've learned right now, the things I've learned, especially from my mentors who have been in sales for like 20, 25 plus years, is don't just pitch. Sales is really about educating your client on the options that are best for them. You're essentially sort of being a consultant. Instead of just going to the person that you're selling to, saying, hey, buy my product, it's really good. First, take the time to do discovery, understand and qualify whether that client's even a good fit for your product. So let's say you sell a product to someone, they don't really need it, you're not doing yourself a favor. Yeah, maybe you make money short term, but now you're burning a potential client for long term
Right.
history. You're ruining your brand reputation. Humility is really important. If you feel, hey, this product is not a good fit for you, don't sell it. Position yourself more as a consultant, someone who can give educative advice instead of just pitching. For me, a lot of what I do is that, right? I be a consultant for my customers. A lot of them are banks. They want to understand uh, what's the best industry practices, what's the best way to place certain AI tools and software. If you educate your clients instead of pitching to them, it'll take you a long way. Another part, depending on what you sell, is being technical. The best sellers, especially in technology sales, they're able to have a balance between being technical and being business focused. Being able to switch contexts where you're talking to a CFO, relaying the financial benefits of your software, and then switching and talking to a CTO, we're able to relate the technical benefits of your software. And going back and forth between those two contexts, having a good understanding of what your customers really care about, also a good understanding of your technology and how your technology works is really important. So being technical and having a good balance between the two and being a consultant are the two most important things I've learned so far starting my career in sales.
And it's great you mentioned that because someone I had recently come on the podcast, his name's Chris Bussing. He talked to me about some of his findings during his own podcast. Someone mentioned that tech sales is the new consulting because at the end of the day, you can't be good at sales if you're, excuse me, like you mentioned, you're just pushing down your agenda into their throats. There's a great entrepreneur from the UK, actually. His name's Simon Squibb, and he talks about this story of how one of his first hires happened because he went inside a car dealership and the person told him that, you know what, I could shove this product down your throat and maybe you would buy it, but I'll be very honest with you, this isn't the best product for you. I think you should come at a later time. He hired him on the spot, right? And it shows you that when you think about the customer's long term purchase abilities rather than, the short term outcome, it always helps you because, I mean, number one, you're being more honest. You can go to sleep guilt free at night. And number two, like you're still getting the ROI at perhaps like a 10, 20x rate. It's just going to show at a, slower speed per se. Let's add another aspect. You're a great leader. And, I've heard very great things about you at Schulich as well, especially with starting your own club. Can you talk to me about where that came from?
Leadership is always something I've been very interested in. It's fascinating the idea of being able to influence people. Comes back to something I also really enjoy is teaching and mentoring people. That's why I'm so close friends with you. But part of the reason why I started that tech club at Schulich was no one else was doing it, right? There wasn't any environment at Schulich for starting a career in tech. I was one of the few people doing it. There was interest in starting a career in tech among the Schulich population, but no one really knew how to do it. Part of that came from me. I love teaching and helping people. So I started that club as a way to give resources to students in need. Say, hey, no, a career in tech isn't just software engineering. Tech companies are still companies, right? There's still need people for marketing, finance, sales, and so much more. So one, just carving a new path, something I really want to do to help others. Part of the reason why I wanted to pursue leadership was when you're young, there's not many chances to get leadership opportunities, right? Besides leading a club, really, what else are you going to lead, right? You're not
Mm-hmm.
going to be a CEO of a big company or be a manager of a team when you first start out your career. One of the few places where you can get leadership experience, running a club in university. So now, from running that club for a few years, I was able to develop my leadership style, understand how leadership works, and try a few different things in a pretty low stakes environment, right? For example, a few years from now, if I want to become a manager, I have a few learnings I can take into it. Of course, managing a sales team and managing a club university, two entirely different things. But now at least I know what kind of leadership styles I prefer, what things I can try, what way people are going to be receptive to certain things in being a good leader. If I didn't lead a club university, I would have to go into that new manager role from ground zero, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't know a thing at all. but now I can go into a new manager role in a few years' time with some backing behind me. But leading also, it's not just being a manager. You can lead in a lot of different small things throughout your career as well. Like in sales, I might lead a small project team where I'm coordinating a few different sales resources, right? Like customer success or the product engineering team and so on and so forth. Leadership will always come up in small patches in lots of different points in your career, especially in sales. The reason why I want to pursue leadership was I think it's really just important skill to have, and there's not many opportunities to get those kind of leadership roles early on.
I agree. There's three main aspects that I feel isn't really taught earlier on: marketing, sales, and leadership skills. And I feel that I want to try and improve myself in all of those skills just because everything backs off of that. We talked about networking, it backs off sales. We talked personal brand that backs off marketing, right? Leadership skills that backs up being a manager for a company. And so many other examples that I just can't think of at the top of my head. But with that, Hader, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. You talked about a lot of things. Appreciate you for keeping it concise and being to the point. You're a great communicator as well.
Of course. Thank you, Mark. Before I head out, I have an offer to give. Anyone listening to this podcast, if you want to start a career in technology sales, feel free to reach out to me. Right, I'm always looking for students that I can help mentor. It's something I really enjoy. If you're listening and you're interested in starting a career in technology sales, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to mentor you or give advice or help in any way I can. I have an open offer out.
That's great.
Thank you, Mark.
I appreciate that. I
Of
appreciate
course.
that. I'm sure you're gonna help a lot of people, just like you did with me.
Anytime.
And viewers of KKC, thank you so much for viewing this episode. I guess you guys got tangible benefit from viewing this one. So, you know, keep tune in for the next ones as well. Thank you, and tune in to next week. Not sure who we're gonna talk to, but we'll see. Have a great day.